Hello folks, welcome to Thinking Ayurveda. This is a place we are trying to bring the best knowledge that is available from the world of Ayurveda with deep appreciation for all other forms of medical science that tries to preserve the human health as a whole. And today in this video we have two topics for discussion. One will be the challenges or constraints that we have in the field of Ayurvedic clinical practice, especially with regards to Ayurveda pharmacology. And two, as you're all expecting, I would also do a response to many of the questions and remarks raised by certain allopathic doctors like the liver doctor. So without much ado, let's start right away. And so buckle up, and I hope you love this enlightening, thought-provoking journey. Top on the list, we have instances of adulteration and contamination. This is very crucial to address as soon as possible because this questions the total drug safety and efficacy. And not only that, it compromises and questions the traditional practice or the art of plant collection and the Vaisheshika Kalpana Vidhi or Ayurveda pharmacology regulations. This is unacceptable for somebody who knows Vaisheshika Kalpana Vidhi. The textbooks detail on the seasonal variations of plants. The textbook details when and where to collect plants. It also explores various aspects of manufacturing when it comes to giving the best product. Having all this in detail, still this man-made error is really disappointing. Before we move to the second point, let's hear one of the questions posed by Dr. Abby Phillips to another Ayurveda doctor and come back as I give a response to this.
So how does Arogya Vardhini act in hepatitis B? How does Arogya Vardhini act in hepatitis B? What is the mechanism of action? It's pure science question.
It was rather so perplexing for me to hear this question from a person who's got such scientific presence and extensive publication records. Because to begin with, the question is so misplaced because the concept of mechanism of action here is kind of misunderstood. Mechanism of action stands for a single molecule when it interacts with a specified target. It's an isolated biochemical pathway, basically. Now, if you consider Ayurvedic preparations or formulations, it's more like a multi-targeted therapy. For instance, FMT, fecal microbiota transplantation. Here it's a procedure where stool sample from one patient is transferred to another. And here we have millions of bacteria that is transferred, probably each bacterial strain having its own mechanism of action. For example, one bacterial strain must be protecting the gut by enhancing gut barrier. Some metabolites will give the essence or goodness of the vitamins and giving more neurotransmitters, establishing gut-brain communications. And this is some of the hypothesized mechanism of actions. So by the end of the day, it is a collective symphony of network effects that come into play. And so is Ayurvedic formulations. Now, again, to be very specific and give this question an answer, Arogya Vardhini Vati has got 13 drugs. Each drug might have its own bioactive molecules. For example, aqueous extract of Haritaki shows hepatitis B surface antigen inhibition and also its DNA polymerase inhibition. And another important drug in this is Katuki. It has got similar anti-hepatitis B like actuary and also inhibits the surface antigen of HBV. And the clinical trials give very promising results against a placebo-controlled trial, where the patients could reduce AST, ALT levels along with their bilirubin. Now, these are to be taken together, and I think this explains why Arogya Vardhini Vati should be useful. It is quite challenging even for a seasoned Ayurvedic practitioner to kind of spot on which stage of hepatitis B infection this particular drug could be the most beneficial. Now, this is a tedious job which should bring similar minds from all the fields of medical practices and together to sit together and understand this drug and use it effectively. I think that answers this question. The second most important thing in this list is addition of allopathic drugs to Ayurvedic formulations. Now, this is complete fraud and treachery. Addition of carbamazepine and anti-seizure medication within Ayurvedic formulations to treat epileptic patients. Now, come on, this is not Ayurveda at all. This practice needs to be condemned and fined. On one side we have this, but on the other side we also have labeled products. For example, glucosamine, a drug that is used to treat, or supplement that is used in osteoarthritic patient to treat their bone and joint disease to help their cartilage repair. Now, this is supplemented or added with Shallaki, a known anti-inflammatory drug in Ayurveda. This needs proper clinical trials. This needs a lot of evidence because we do not have glucosamine mentioned in any of the textbooks like Charaka or Sushruta. So we have our own apprehensions, and I think this also needs a lot of evidence before it is put to practice. Before moving to the third point, let's listen to one of Abby Phillips's questions and remarks and come back for the answer.
What we have to do is that if we are going to identify a particular natural compound from a particular plant, we have to ensure that that natural compound is what we require and it is beneficial and safe.
After seeing this question, it looks like it is Ayurveda's fault or a plant's fault for not giving that particular molecule on a platter to be used in a disease. The plant has always been there, so is Ayurveda, and it has helped cure diseases over centuries and so many generations. Now the question is, why ain't a molecule identifiable in this process? The answer is very simple. If you take a simple calculator and do 4 factorial, which is 4 into 3 into 2, you get 2 into 1, and you get 24. Now if you try to do 50 factorial, which is 50 into 49 into 48 and so on, you will need a scientific calculator. And that's the same thing with the drug discovery process with natural products. We have an existing technology that cannot handle natural products, which means, for example, synthetic drugs have something called high throughput screening, a screening of chemical library of molecules. Now, over 1 million compounds are present in a chemical library called Cambridge. But when it comes to natural products, which is the molecules in natural sources, from natural sources, we have very, very less minimal amount of drugs. So this is another important challenging thing. It is not open access, or it is unaccessible. The database is underwhelming, and I think natural products also cannot be handled by ADMET and virtual screening in silico, because and also rule of 5. These are some of the specifications when it comes to drug discovery, which is all benchmarked for chemical synthetic drugs. And because of this ADMET and rule of 5 screening, we've lost many compounds that could have been interesting to cure a particular disease. We have ended up with the lights alone with ashwagandha. What happened to other compounds? What happened to other bioactive compounds which could have been bioactive in the presence of nonsense or nuisance molecules? There isn't separate processes for identifying natural products in these categories. So, for example, ADMET cannot screen for large molecules, which is commonly seen in natural products. Now, with the help of RNN, or recurrent neural network, there have been developments to create natural products like molecules that could be present in natural products. Over 250,000 products are available. These molecules, when taken or when it is usable in the wet labs, only 2,000 could be identified. So which means we are left with 2,000 products in real time. And that's really negligible amount when compared to what is present with respect to synthetic drugs. Now, we also have the current algorithm not working for natural products or natural product-like molecules because of the complex nature, 3D structure and configurations of the natural molecules. We also have problems with bioactivity. Sometimes saponins are removed as nonsense or nuisance molecules, but some compounds or molecules will start working as a drug candidate when these saponins are present. So you cannot eliminate as such any of the items in the natural product. So that is another challenge or constraint that comes in. So many constraints like this. Finally, at the last part, we also have financial crisis. Who's going to build this cat? In fact, medicinal leaching started with hidden therapy, but now we know there are more than 100 bioactive molecules that could be put to use. So friends, it's time that we shift from this reductionist principle because by the end of the day, for diabetes, you still have metformin and all the GLE drugs. And for hypertension, I mean, it fills your entire medicinal box. So it is not certainly reductionist principle, that's the irony. And if you see certain bacteria does produce 10 plus antibiotics or metabolites that could work as antibiotics in the environment where it is present. And the same bacterial strain, when put into a lab, only 2 or 3 antibiotics could be produced. So this is called one strain, many compounds. And there are many other theories that is evolving like this. I think we need to understand from a different perspective all of these new research also when we talk about reductionist principle. And third on the list is certain misclassification of herbs. What do I mean by this? All herbs are not Ayurvedic, and Ayurveda is not only about herbs. All green plants that you see on the surface of earth is not Ayurvedic. And this has to be understood because we have certain textual references and the enumeration of plants. So this only can be considered to be Ayurvedic. The rest of it could have medicinal values and could have been used in their own traditional medicine that that particular geography had. So folks, this has to be understood. Not everything green that you see on the surface is Ayurvedic, all right? Although we try to see everything about Ayurveda is fresh and green, but I understand that notion. But having said that, having understood that, I still believe that Ayurvedic textual classical formulation should be given the right amount of upliftment. Then the world of Ayurveda will still rise to a much better position. We'll move on to the third question that Dr. Abhi asks the audience, and I'm very keen to answer this.
Notice further down the discussion, he again said Professor Velyathan and all that big names he used. That is known as appeal to authority. So basically, the speaker, that is Kiran, has nothing else to offer us.
Do I smell hate? Now, science is impermeable to many of these angry comments or hate comments. Basically, if one needs to prove or disprove something, they need valid evidence. So if I say Charaka's statement remains unproved, it doesn't mean that is the idea of disproving it. Science is curious. It only states, I don't know. All right. Now, coming back to appeal to authority fallacy. There are times, we encounter certain situations where there is uncertainty about the efficacy of certain medications. Say, for example, probiotics in the usage of adult acute gastroenteritis in developed countries. Let me state another example, corticosteroids in the treatment of emergency anaphylaxis. But this is clinically usually done. And this is based on expert opinion. We call this expert opinion based approach or evidence. So not that we should have Cochrane review based evidence all the time, because for the second one we do not have a Cochrane review based opinion. All right. Again, when it comes to Dr. Phillips asking the other doctor, Ayurvedic doctor, about Dr. M.S. Velyathan, he's forgotten that Dr. M.S. Velyathan is a famous cardiac surgeon who can speak allopathy at the same time speak Ayurveda, because he's written a number of books too. His legacy of Charaka, legacy of Sushruta stands as a proof for this, his understanding of Ayurveda. Now, if it is some celebrity that has endorsed Ayurveda, I think this statement could have been better, or there couldn't be a counter argument on this. But Dr. M.S. Velyathan, who recently departed from us, seems to be too good to be negated, to be taken as an example for appeal to authority. So most often we find that expert opinion is unnecessary when the collection of data is deterministic or deductive. Deductive could mean, let me state an example here. Paracetamol is a drug which would be applied to a sample to test and then applied to a large population. Now, inductive is you see a herb usage and you see a sample of people using it, and then you see certain patterns and potential drug usage of that particular molecule or a plant, and then you apply it to general population. This is inductive. So when you have a very deterministic approach, then appeal to authority would be a fallacy, because it is there already, the evidence is clear cut. And in scenarios where the evidence is inconsistent, like I stated before, we have to depend on experts. The entire crowd was listening and he applied this fallacy, and I think this is truly illogical to be used in this particular scenario where Ayurveda is such a multifaceted knowledge, a very nuanced knowledge, which needs a lot of expert opinions, which needs a lot of experts to come across and sit together and work. I think that's what Ayurveda should do, and till a time when our technology is advanced so much further that we do not need any more experts in our list, I think then expert appeal to authority could be used. Fourth on the list is the marketing of single drugs as tablets, because I believe in the Brihatrayis there is not ample references to single drugs being used commonly targeting a specific disease. It's often here and there, and usually with addition of adjuvants or a separate pharmaceutical preparation. For example, ashwagandha, if my memory serves me right, in Charaka it is used as kshirapaka, and kshirapaka is a pharmaceutical preparation where one part of the drug is added to 8 parts of milk diluted with 32 parts of water and evaporated until the milk remains, and filtered and consumed as a drink. So this is how ashwagandha is taken for bodybuilding. Now, if we can do like this, it might enhance the therapeutic efficacy and also reduce any kind of toxins if present, if any. On the other hand, if we do not do this, there could be serious consequences, right? Because we are not following, or we're not playing by the rules. So I think this is also quite important to address now.
With
so many unrelated things. But I just want to make a point about your Cochrane review about diabetes. I just looked it up. And what is exactly written here is that due to methodological deficiencies and small sample sizes, we were unable to draw any definitive conclusions regarding efficacy of herbal medicines. So what you just said now is absolute, you are just lying.
Claiming that Cochrane review is absent for the management of diabetes in Ayurveda is quite laughable when you see how often they overlook its authority. In fact, where is the Cochrane review for vitamins preventing cardiovascular diseases, or in the prevention of cancer, or in the prevention of mortality? And considering the market size as $44 billion US, one would expect a huge, bright Cochrane evaluation, but it's missing. Where is the Cochrane review for probiotics? In the usage of constipation, eczema, pregnancy complications, although it is good, holds good in few conditions. Probiotics is the mantra, where it stands at $71 billion US. Now consider Ayurvedic industry is $18 billion US. These two drugs alone, these two probiotics and multivitamins alone stands more than 100 billion US. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. You have fish oils, you have omega-3 fatty acids, and many more. In fact, PUFAs and soy milk in the management of food allergies in children. All these are supplement scams. And in fact, let's leave out these dietary supplements, because probably this doctor could even say they are dietary supplements. But let's come to the treatment aspects. Where is the Cochrane review for antibiotics in middle ear infection in children? It's recently 1 in 14 child that is treated with antibiotics for middle ear infection gets adverse reactions. So it is kind of Cochrane review is calling this into question. Use only with caution. Where is the Cochrane review for, or where is the consistent Cochrane review for remdesivir that is used in COVID-19, with mild to moderate COVID-19? But the market size for it stands at, or the market size or market sales stands at $5.9 billion US. It's amazing that such data needs to be pulled out at this point of time. Isn't it time that we came out with much more data and robust videos on these occasions and these kind of considerations, rather than just diabetes, which has got consistent trial in Ayurveda, which has been used for centuries? And the fifth one in our list is various arbitrary combinations of plants just to gain commercialized products. I think this also need to be taken or scrutinized properly, because these do not have typical textbook references. I think this is a time when we have to address this man-made error also. We'll move on to the next question. Take a look at this.
So now when you look at from their angle, the journal, the editorial board and the publisher, they don't have the time to fight it at court. And the journal editors are government. I mean, at the time, the editor of the journal was actually a senior professor at PGI Chandigarh, and it was not up to him to take it up and spend money on lawyers and all. So what they did, they took the easy way out. They said, "We are sorry, we are removing the paper." So money won there and science lost.
What you heard now is a scientific article that was removed by Elsevier, and the article's name was Slimming to Death. Now, really, the question is, what happened between Herbalife Nutrition and this Dr. Phillips? Usually, the story begins with him succumbing to the pressures given by Herbalife, and how Elsevier has taken the legal action of removing the article from its database. Now, again, if you see, the main story starts from analyzing the reply letter. The letter, the peer review was done by Dr. Zambron, and the questions are as follows. 1. Why was the need for the title to be sensationalized as Slimming to Death? Usually that looks a bit ornate. It is true that question stands good, and there is no answer for this. 2. Why the patient sample wasn't collected when it was the patient who died, and instead why did Dr. Phillips collect samples from online? Remains unanswered. 3. Why the dosage was not considered? The patient had taken 20 times the prescribed dosage. For one of its product, the dosage was 1 gram, while the patient had taken 20 grams. So why wasn't this considered? The answer was there was not package, labeling was not sufficient for the patient to understand how many drinks has to be taken per day. Now, even if it's any health drink out there or any nutrient drink out there, usually anybody for that matter with common sense would take max on tops maybe 4 drinks per day. A patient has to take 20 drinks per day to get this dosage. So this also does not stand good for an answer. The important one on the list is the sample size. Now for this, you need calculations to be done. In this particular condition, for each product, it is 2 or 3 was done, and this is not quite enough for a significant sample size to arrive at a conclusion that this particular drug caused the patient's death. Now, this is again, there's no answer on this. Another question is, how was RUCAM scoring done in this particular case? This is a case report. Now, RUCAM scoring stands for drug-induced liver injury, and a point of 6 here in this particular article shows that it is probable, which means there's likely that patient was death was due to drug-induced liver injury. So, but the scoring for this was asked in detail, which was not presented in the reply letter. So, what I mean is, I'm not advocating for Herbalife or against Herbalife or against Dr. Phillips here, because this program is not sponsored. What I want to say is, how could an agency, outside agency, how could it remove, how easily could it remove an article, and why could it remove an article? The flaws and invalid data collection in a particular article can surely be susceptible enough for all this persecution. So this particular fault, uncooked or half-baked data collection, was one of the reasons for the article being removed so easily by any company outside. I think this needs to be understood when any kind of validation on anybody's work needs to be done, without blindly believing somebody out there when they come and tell something open. So part of it could be true, part of the work that he published later could be true, but that doesn't stay good for his past mistakes. So with this, I close this video. Thanks for being with me, and please do subscribe if you like this kind of videos. Bye.